Good morning and welcome to PT Live. We have with us today Ambassador Wojtek Ponikiewski. He is the Deputy Head of the Department of Economic Cooperation at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Welcome. In June, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is organizing a big expo in Warsaw. Can you tell us a little bit about this, please?
Yes, but maybe I should start with saying that it's not exclusively the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. We're doing this as a sort of private-public partnership. And there are a number of institutions involved, and on the private sector side, we have PTAC Warsaw Expo. They are the main organizers, but there are also other companies, like, for example, Lubawa, which is also involved as a partner of this event. And on the government side, there are also a number of institutions involved. So I don't want to take the let's say to be the monopoly of that event, as there are others who are involved. But Warsaw Humanitarian Expo is a big thing to come. It's composed of a number of elements. There will be sort of a regular fair for companies who can show and present their merchandise, their goods, their products.
Is that for Polish companies only?
No, absolutely not. It's open for everybody. We think that that will be especially interesting for the companies from the region, from Central and Eastern Europe, but all the other companies are welcome as well. So we have this regular, let's say, fair part. The second component is the conference. That will be a high-level conference with many very interesting and high-level people invited to that conference. One of those who have already confirmed and who is a guru of the humanitarian aid is the Undersecretary General of the United Nations for Humanitarian Assistance, Mark Lowcock. So he will be one of the main speakers during that conference. And the conference will be devoted to the relation between business and humanitarian affairs. The title of the conference is Responsible Business for Humanitarian Emergencies. Then we will also have the third component of the expo, which will be actually this, how we in our internal terms call that component, which is the carrot for business. So actually we wanted to answer ourselves the question why business would be interested in humanitarian affairs, or not only in humanitarian, because Expo, despite the fact that its title is Humanitarian Expo, in fact, we're thinking more in slightly broader terms, so it's more of a development expo. So also for people who are not exclusively interested in humanitarian affairs, but also in a long-term development of, let's say, developing countries or countries which are stricken by wars or by conflicts, etc. So not only the short-term aid, but also the long-term aid. So when we are thinking about business involvement in humanitarian and development sector, we have to think why they would be involved, why they would be interested, what kind of opportunities this sector presents for business. And of course, we can see this in two sides. One, I would say, is a constraint. So business has to perform in a, I would call it, socially responsible way. If you want your brand to become global brand, if you want to sell your products without having, so to say, problems with media, you have to behave in a certain way. So this is maybe this stick part, but there is also a carrot part, and this carrot part is very important because this is a huge market.
And can I ask, I mean, so Polish companies, are they involved much in the humanitarian?
Unfortunately, for the time being, they're involved in a very, very small way, and that's
Is that because
something
they don't know about it, or because they?
Well, we were trying to answer that question already for a number of years. Why Polish companies, for example, do not participate in the international organizations' tenders. And just let me say that here the United Nations market is a multi-billion market per year, multi-billion dollars market per year. So, so it's a huge market, which is also a very attractive market in terms of it's a secure market. You do not carry major risk, but you have to be competitive. So you have to have a product which is competitive price-wise and quality-wise.
And what kind of products, what kind of services are
practically
needed?
Everything sells. So this is also, and let me be very clear about this, when we talk about humanitarian and development aid, we're not talking only about food, we're not talking only about beverages or medicines or shelter. We're talking in a much wider scope of products. We're talking about new technologies, about green technologies, about IT. There are so many, the market of international organization is absolutely huge in terms of IT services.
And Poland is very strong on IT, isn't it?
We're very strong, but unfortunately our companies do not participate in those tenders for IT services. So we want to break that and we want to bring a real change in Polish, but not only Polish companies' approach to the UN market, and not only UN, because there will be also other international organizations, including EU, including NATO, including World Bank, including ICRC, so International Red Cross, or also the market of non-governmental organizations. We cannot forget that there is also a very lively sector of NGOs which are working in humanitarian and development sectors, and they do also purchase goods and services. So again, here this market is really very, very interesting, and one of the components, as I mentioned, of the Expo will be devoted to that market. We call this component Warsaw Procurement Forum. We bring nearly 30 experts responsible for procurement and the UN, different UN agencies and programs.
From outside Poland?
From outside Poland, from New York, from Geneva, from Rome, depends where the agencies are located. We bring also representatives of major NGOs, world NGOs. We also bring procurement experts from the EU, from NATO, from International Red Cross. So those experts will discuss how to participate in the project.
So very practical.
Very practical.
Elements, yeah.
And you need, I think you've asked me that question, what is the problem, why the Polish companies do not participate? I think that one of the biggest problems is the cultural barrier. Companies, they need to invest, but they don't need to invest that much money, but they need to invest time and they need to devote some staff to do work. There is a lot of paperwork involved. I mean, after all, these are the public companies, public institutions, so the paperwork is important. It's not the deal which will just happen, I say, yes, I buy, you sell me the product. No, it's a very competitive market, but if you have a good price and good quality product, then you're sure that you can sell it. But you need to fill papers, you need to have someone who speaks English, someone who can do their work, certificates that you have to send, and you cannot commit too many errors, because once you commit an error, which will be even a small error, typing error, which one could find that it's completely negligent, but then it doesn't pass through computer, and then it's excluded from the tender automatically.
Sure.
So,
but these things are definitely things that can be surmounted, can't they?
They can be, and the whole world is doing this, so I don't see the reason why the Polish companies cannot do the same.
Sure. Just a question about the cooperation between the non-governmental organizations, the governmental organizations and private business. Mm-hmm. Is that quite complicated? I mean, how does that look?
Well, let me just start with saying that Poland is an emerging donor. For many years, we were receiving aid mostly from Western countries, which was mostly devoted to the transformation, etc. We still receive some sort of an aid in terms of structural funds from the EU, but we are contributing to development assistance more and more. Actually, this number is growing. I think last year it amounted to nearly 2.5 billion Polish zlotys, so it's not a negligent amount. Humanitarian aid grew to nearly 200 million zlotys last year, so these are important numbers. And of course, there is the question how this money is used. Of course, some of this money, or maybe most of this money, is going through international channels, through the EU, also through some of the UN agencies. But also, some of this money is spent directly through so-called Polish aid. So it's very important to build synergies between Polish NGOs or NGOs which participate in tenders which are issued by Polish Ministry of Foreign Affairs for different projects in developing countries which are devoted for humanitarian or development aid, and then to combine that with capacities of Polish companies. I don't see the reason why a Polish NGO providing new and renewable sources of energy to some refugee camp in Syria cannot use Polish technology in this respect. So I think that there is a room for building those synergies, and that will be the last component, which I haven't yet mentioned, of the Warsaw Humanitarian Expo, which we'll call Humanitarian City, and which will be a platform for debates, for meetings, for discussions among business representatives and NGOs, and also wider public opinion interested in those issues, because we think that we need also to build a public support for humanitarian and development aid. So that will be an ideal place for all stakeholders possibly interested in this, to build those synergies, to build possible cooperation, and to make this things more effective and more efficient, and also more beneficial to everybody, so that we can build also the support for development aid and humanitarian aid from the grassroots level.
I mean, would you say that the business involvement in these humanitarian, in this humanitarian world, makes things more efficient and?
I think it makes things more efficient. When you think, just think about innovation. There are many war hit zones or even natural catastrophes which occur in some remote zones. How do you reach with aid there? Now you use drones. You use modern technologies in order to be there. And this is a perfect example of where business could do things, where new technologies could do things. And many international organizations are using those technologies. What is also very important is that those procurement officers in big NGOs or in UN agencies or in other institutions which are providing aid to developing countries or to countries which are in need, they're looking for new solutions. They are open for new proposals. They do not want to rely only on products or services they knew from the past. They're constantly interested in being provided with new solutions. So that's also another scope for another room of opportunity for business to come forward with ideas. We also, one of the elements which we hope also to engage, or one, let's say, one strata of business, these are startups. Startups have very often very innovative, sometimes easy solutions, and why not to promote this? And that is also, I think, an important factor to build an interest in this sector among young people. Many young people, they would go for missions abroad as volunteers, etc. But they can also invent some technology solutions, and that will be very welcome.
Great. And this is a Polish initiative, I understand. This
is a Polish initiative, but as I said, we're absolutely open. We're not only open, we hope very much to engage other countries, other partners, other businesses, NGOs from Europe, from all over the world, and the same with business. We actually hope that this initiative can grow into an initiative which will be organized also in the future. So it won't be a one-time initiative, but a long-term project, and we hope to grow in time.
Great. Well, it sounds very interesting. It's in June, isn't it?
It's in June. It's 13 June.
Okay, great. Well, good luck with it. It sounds very good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.